Curiosity is dangerous when it has been locked away for too long. She opened it. At first, she didn't understand what she was looking at. Legal papers, company records, signatures, transfers. But then she saw a name. Her father's name. And next to it, another signature that looked slightly different but familiar. Her uncle's name. Her hands shook. She flipped through more pages. And then she saw something that made her breath stop. A document stating that her father's company had been transferred after his death, not through inheritance, but through a forged legal approval process. Her heart began to race. And then she saw another file. A death report. But the date didn't match what she was told. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. The truth behind the walls. That night, she couldn't sleep. For the first time in her life, the walls of her room felt like they were closing in. She replayed everything she had ever been told. Her father died suddenly. Her mother died in grief. Her siblings were gone, too. And her uncle, the only surviving adult, became her protector. But now she realized something terrifying. What if he wasn't protecting her? What if he was protecting something else? Or worse, what if he was protecting himself from her? Because the documents weren't just about company ownership. They were about control. And one sentence stood out. Beneficiary approval required for final transfer, signature of sole heir. Her signature. She was not just his niece. She was the legal key to everything her father left behind. And she had been kept inside this compound her entire life so she would never question it. Never investigate. Never escape. Never meet anyone who could tell her the truth. The man behind the mask. The next morning, Chief Obinna came to visit as usual. He brought gift. He smiled. He asked about her studies. But something had changed in Amara. She was no longer just a girl behind walls. She was a girl with questions. "Uncle," she said softly, "why don't I have any childhood pictures with Daddy?" There was a pause. A fraction too long. Then he smiled. "They were lost during the crisis," he said. "You know that." But his eyes didn't match his smile. For the first time, Amara noticed that. And she realized something even more frightening. He was afraid of her growing up. They locked life. Over the next few days, she observed everything. The guards rotated too frequently. Her phone had restrictions she never noticed before. The gates were always locked, even when she was told they were open. She wasn't protected. She was contained. A prisoner in a golden cage. And then she discovered something else. A hidden room behind her wardrobe. Inside it were old photographs. Her father. Her mother. Her siblings. All marked with red ink. And one final picture. A family portrait where her face had been scratched out. That was the moment everything inside her snapped into clarity. She wasn't kept inside for safety. She was kept inside because she was the last living witness. The escape. That night, she made a decision. She couldn't confront him yet. Not directly. Not without proof. Not without a plan. So she did something simple. She acted normal. She smiled. She ate dinner. She went to bed early. And at 2:17 a.m., when the house was asleep, she moved. For the first time in 22 years, she stepped beyond the room. Her footsteps echoed through the corridor like they didn't belong to her. The gate was still locked. But she had watched the guards enough times to know their patterns. She found a weak point. A side exit used for deliveries. And she slipped through. The night air hit her like a different world. Cold. Real. Free. She didn't run far. She didn't know where to go. But she knew one thing. She could never go back. The truth comes out. By morning, the house was in chaos. But Amara was already gone. She reached a nearby town and went straight to the one place her uncle never expected. The legal aid office. And there, she told everything. The locked house. The documents. The names. The control. The fear. The lawyers listened carefully. And then one of them said quietly, "You are not just a victim. You are the rightful heir." And that was when the full truth finally came out. Her uncle hadn't just taken over the company. He had orchestrated the entire downfall of her family. And kept her alive for one reason only. A signature. Her signature. The final piece needed to make everything legally his forever. The final turn. Days later, authorities moved in. The bungalow that had been her entire world was finally opened from the outside. Chief Obinna was arrested. The locked documents were seized. And for the first time, Amara stood outside the gates not as a prisoner, but as the rightful owner of everything she was denied. But wealth didn't matter to her anymore. Freedom did. Epilogue. Amara never went back to the bungalow. She sold it. Every wall that once defined her captivity was torn down. And in its place, she built something new. A foundation for children who had been hidden, silenced, or controlled, so no one else would grow up thinking walls were normal. Because she learned something powerful. Sometimes, the most dangerous prisons are not made of iron. They are made of lies spoken softly, by people you trust. And for 22 years, she lived inside one.